Our kingdom will be absolutely out of this world. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto our power, our Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha HaKodash. I would like to give double honor unto our elder apostles and elder bishops, great millstone. Peace and blessing to the house of David, the elect, beginning with the 144,000. Our kingdom will be absolutely out of this world, man. Us, the Israelites, us, so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native and Seminole Indians, will be one with our power again. And that entails a lot. Okay? Being the direct sons, and for our women, daughters of the Heavenly Father. But beginning with the men, begin with you hopeful elect brothers, all right? The prophets, the 144,000, you're going to be the direct sons of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Okay? And being a son of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, being a son of the power, is a position that is going to be the highest position in the universe. Okay? And we will be the direct descendants of our power, his direct offspring by way of Amalek. Okay? Once we're changed, things gonna manifest on a physical level, showing that we are the people of the Heavenly Father. Okay? Us being able to fully control the planet Earth by way of the law, statutes, commandments. Okay? And us having a kingdom on this planet Earth is actually fashioned according to the Heavenly Father's divine design. Okay? Such as what you read in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, Tobit, chapter 13, Isaiah, chapter 60, Isaiah, chapter 54, okay, and many other scriptures. All right? And you Israelites, us the Israelites, will not be disappointed, man. The Heavenly Father is going to fully fulfill your heart's desire. Okay? And things are going to be beyond our imagination. As it's written, I have not seen, nor ear have heard. Okay? What will it truly be like to be the sons of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai? All right? And you women are going to be all right too. You know, our women. Okay? But this kingdom does begin with the Israelite man.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great example to us younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and its sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, and what I want to get into, with this lesson, dealing with Amalek, put emphasis on Amalek. And as we have come to know in this truth, all right, that you have this wicked nation called the nation of Edom, and within Edom, there's a nation, all right, there's a sect of Edomites, okay, called the Amalekites, all right, which is one of the grandsons, okay, of Edom, okay. One of Esau's grandsons. When you go into the book of Genesis and go into the line of Esau, okay, Amalek is one of his grandsons, and the descendants of Amalek will go on to be, a tribe of Esau known as Amalek, okay, which ultimately will be the head of the nation of Edom, okay, in these latter days, okay, and through the rulership of Esau, Edom, headed by Amalek, okay, there will be a great judgment at the end of these days, man, because of the wickedness of Amalek, man, the wickedness of Esau, headed by Amalek, man. Okay, and the Bible has revealed all these things in these latter days, and that's why, as we understand the Bible, reality makes more sense. Okay, so let's get a few precepts. All right, and go into go here. All right, this is the book of Mark, chapter 4, verse 22, in the AMP. Okay, so it said, "For nothing is hidden except to be revealed, nor anything has been kept secret, but that it will come to light. That is, things are hidden only temporarily until the appropriate time comes for them to be known." Okay, and we in that appropriate time, because we're in the time of judgment and deliverance. Okay, so it's all, one thing about the scripture, it describes Edom's rulership will be based in deception. When it speaks about him being loose from his prison, and being able to, conquer the earth, colonize the earth, spread his lies and deception, through the sword. Okay. Well, this devil, all right, will deceive the four quarters of the earth. There's a lot of things that this devil has hidden in his rulership. There's a lot of truths hidden in this devil's rulership, man. Okay. But at an appointed time, the Lord has caused these things to be unveiled. Okay. As the scriptures say, let's go here. And there's nothing that, the devil can do to stop the unveiling. For the longest the devil was able to operate, under, a darkness, okay, and the cloak of deception. You see, for the longest, he's been able to be, claim himself to be the chosen people, okay, claim himself to be, the heroes of humanity, okay, claim himself, to be, God-like, okay, the standard of morality for the long time. History favored him. He was the hero in history, the hero in the present, the hero in the future. Okay. But the Lord would allow, the devil, to be unveiled in these last days for what he truly is. He is the wicked. Okay. And of Esau, Edom, you have Amalek, okay, which is the worst of them all. All right. Jeremiah 49:10 said, "But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself," man. So through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, everything has been put out in the open. You see, the Lord has put everything out in the open with the devil, man. Who he is. He's an Edomite. He's not European. He's not an Anglo-Saxon. No, he's an Edomite, man. Okay? And of Edom, you have Amalek, man. And these things are being pushed out there, man. And the Lord has it to where there's a highlight and emphasis on Esau and there's emphasis on Amalek in these last days, man. Okay? To the point that he wants to make it a crime to call him out. Just to verbalize his wickedness, he wants to make that a crime. Just because you speak on what he's actually doing in the earth, he wants to make that a crime. Okay? Because the scripture said there will be an inquisition of the devil in the last days. Okay? It says his seed is spoiled and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. Yeah, because this devil, which he's the one that's behind these wars. Okay, but this last war he has started, it has put a spotlight on his wickedness, especially the small hats, because America and the small hats are at the forefront, and their wickedness is highlighted. Okay, because this is the peak of Esau power in the world today is these small hats in America, man. Okay, they're the logo of Esau in the earth. You see, and they're on the center stage, and their wickedness is being called out. Okay, and in this war, he's going to lose, and he's going to become a spoiler war. His rulership is not going to exist anymore. His authority is not going to exist anymore. He's going to go along with these other heathens into captivity, man. Okay, and when you go here, because as everything is coming out, all right, because we didn't know, Christianity didn't teach us that the wicked in the Bible was Esau, the so-called white man. Okay, we were just thinking, the devil, the nigga with horns, all right, the pitchfork, the goatee, the long, goatee. Okay, walking around laughing. You see, nah, man. See, goddamn so-called white people, man. Esau, Edom. He's the wicked that the Bible speaks of, and the Lord gives us these breadcrumbs in the scriptures to paint a picture. These precepts are like puzzle pieces that paint a picture, and it paints a clear picture of who the devil is. Esau, Edom, man. Okay, when you go to Job 9:24, it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Okay, so the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. The Lord gave the earth into this man's hand. And what did Esau, Edom do? He did nothing, but he charges up to himself, man. Being a goddamn demon, man. Okay? In every way that you can think of. Now, a clue of who the wicked is he says he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Okay? So who are the judges? Well, the Israelites. Okay? The Israelites are the judges of the earth, man. Beginning with Yahweh Shai, and of course the Most High. You see, the Most High judge is why he's known as the Most High. Okay, Yahweh Shai. Then you have, the men of Israel are the rightful judges of the earth. You see, but what did Esau Edom do? You go here because we know the tribes, as we know, are what dark-skinned and brown-skinned people. All right, but when you go to Esau, who covered the face of the judges? Well, this is a clue of who the wicked is. So you go here. What people covered the face of the judges, man? It's supposed to be the Messiah, the apostles. These are all supposed to be dark-skinned, all right, and brown-skinned men. Okay, who are these people, man? What nation of people did this and published this throughout the world? Okay, who did this? You see, Esau Edom, the so-called white man. So we can pinpoint the so-called white man, okay, by the fact that he covered the face. You see, and when you go here, you go from there. All right, the characteristics of Esau. You go to the book of Psalms. All right, chapter 140. All right, this Psalms 140:1. It said, "Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, who imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war." Continue are they gathered together for war. And when you go into Genesis What blessing was given Esau to live by? Genesis 20. Okay. Even before you go there, let's get this in Genesis 25, where his name will change to Edom. Okay, because the devil has been pinpointed in these last days, Esau, Edom. So when you go to Genesis 25, all right, and when the devil, okay, getting ready to sell his birthright, okay, Jacob gave him the name Edom. Genesis 25 and 29 says, and Jacob saw pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. Okay, and when you go into Edom, all right, because he wanted the meat before it was done, it had blood in it, man. Okay, and who likes, all right, these rare, okay, steaks today, this rare meat today? Another indicator. Okay, Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, that same red pottage, okay, for he was faint, and his name was called Edom. Okay, now when you go into this word Edom, which in the Hebrew is Adam, okay, which goes into what? Red. Okay, red. So this is an indicator because you look at Esau and his blood shows through his skin, especially when he's angry, man, or embarrassed, man. He gets what? Red, even more red, man. Okay, so that's another indicator of who's the wicked and what was given to Esau, and which will be another indicator of who the wicked is, man. Genesis 27. All right. Genesis 27 and 39. It says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. So Esau was blessed with what? The fatness of the earth. It also in Job and said the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Well, it was blessed. Esau was blessed to have the fatness of the earth, okay, and the dew of heaven from above, which is the planet Earth as a possession, okay. And how will he obtain that though? You see, because Jacob was blessed with the same thing. You see, but Esau, he would obtain it, and not only obtain it through the sword, but he will live by. He will maintain his blessing through the sword. You see, once Yahweh Shah comes and wages war, that'll be the end of all wars forever. No nation will learn war anymore. But in the Esau kingdom, okay, it's perpetual war because this was part of his blessing that he will be a perpetual war. And this is an indicator of who he is. It says, and by the sword shalt thou live. You see, and thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break the yoke, his yoke from off thy neck. Yeah, because we had, Esau, during the dark ages. King David had Edomites in subjection. And even during the dark ages, eventually during the time of King David, okay, they will break away after King Solomon. You see, after the kingdom was split, you have the northern and southern kingdom. Eventually, Esau will break away, okay, from the divided kingdom of Israel, okay, but he was put in submission under King David. And then you will have, during the time of the dark ages, you see, when Jacob was ruling and Esau was pushed to the outskirts, okay, he didn't have any dominion. You see, but eventually Esau came back to dominion through the sword by taking down Jacob's strongholds, man. You see, and that's when he will fully come into this blessing given to him by Isaac, when he will live by the sword, and he will have the fatness of the earth, and show you that he maintains his kingdom through the sword. And that's an indicator of who he is. This is a blessing given to Esau. That's why he's always been, so far ahead of these heathens with his weaponry, man. Until of late, when the Lord has allowed, the weak to say they're strong for the sake of what? Taking the devil down. Would you go into the word in Hebrew is kaya, okay? Which is to live. And it said to live, to have life, to remain alive. So in order for this devil to remain alive, it will be through the sword. Okay? To rule the earth in wickedness and keep these nations off his ass, man. The Lord gave this nigga a sword. You see? But now we're in a time where that gap between these nations and Esau has been closed because of the sake of prophecy, man. Okay? It said to sustain life, to live prosperity, will be through the sword. His wealth is getting through the sword. He's been a bully to these nations to become prosperous, man. And who's at the forefront of that? Amalek, man. Okay? Amalek is at the forefront of that. You see? And the scriptures mention Amalek, all right, specifically. So let's get that. All right? But this devil has been pinpointing. You Edomites have been pinpointing of, okay, Esau. You have Amalek. So when you go to the book of Exodus, the Lord made a promise. And then I got a video I want to get into to show you, man. Esau just a global demon, man. You Amalekites, the worst of the worst, man. Just a global demon, man. Low life. This is Exodus 17:16. It says, "For he said, because the Lord has sworn that the world will never have war." All right, it's like, for he said back in Exodus 17:16, for he said, because the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation, man. You see, and you look at the people that's at the forefront of Satanism, anti-Messiah culture is Amalek, and that's their way of being at war with the Creator, man, with the Most High. Okay, is to turn the earth into low life degeneracy, man. Okay, to make people have no reverence for a higher power. That's his way of being at war with the Most High. And see, the Lord has raised up the prophets to begin a spiritual war against Amalek, and Yahweh Shai is going to come and wage physical war against Amalek, man. Okay, and that's going to be the end of that, man. It's going to be a closed case at the return of Yahweh Shai. But the prophets have been raised up to call this devil out. Okay, you Edomites in general. Okay, and then of you Edomites, Amalek. Okay, because he's the head, he's the leader. He's the mastermind behind the wickedness of this society, man. You see, the rebellion of this society is financed and pushed by Amalek, man. Okay, and you go into the Hebrew, it's Amalek. Okay, Amalek. All right, which is dwell in the valley, because he's a low life, man. Because valley can go into low morals. Okay, but yeah, he's a low life, man. You see, it says son of Eliphaz by his concubine Timah, grandson of Esau, progenitor of a tribe of the people in southern Canaan. See, those Canaanites were known for their sexual lewdness, okay, Baal worship. You see, alphabet, children sacrifice, pedophilia, bestiality. The Canaanites were known for that, man. And they was who? Amalek, man. Okay, and Amalek is the worst of the worst, man, when it comes to the Edomites. So let's go from there. I want the video. Just listen to this, man. This is how these devils are real time. You see? And there's no one that's entitled. Hold on, I can't there we go. And there's no one that's more entitled, all right, than you Amalekites, you small heads, man. So let's play this.
Israelis aren't just settlers in Israel. They're moving and colonizing the world.
Parts of their town are being taken over.
Pushing local limits in Thailand.
Zionist territories in the north of Cyprus.
From backpacking trails in South and Southeast Asia,
shoulder a backpack and disappear into the world,
to quiet European mountain towns, you'll find Israelis. We've mostly seen them take two forms: the war criminals fresh from service,
then they go to detox in India,
and the liberals fleeing what they claim is a failing democracy.
Progetto Baita hanno contribuito ad evitare lo
On the surface, they couldn't seem more different. But watch how they move through the world, and you can see how Zionism produces a particular relationship to land and other people. One that is exploitative and violent, and that is not limited to Palestine. Between the two, one shows us how settlers act, and the other, how they think.
The PetSmart app has powerful features to help you care for your pet. We also have Store with human-powered grooming technology. Talk about cutting edge. Book in-app, groom in-store. PetSmart, anything for pets.
The Law Firm AI Automation Playbook gives you 5 law firm-specific workflows you can deploy in one afternoon.
For decades, tens of thousands of young Israelis have been going to South and Southeast Asia every year. It's a rite of passage for recently discharged soldiers known as the Big Trip. See, when Jewish Israelis graduate from high school at 18 years old, most of them are required to serve in the occupation forces. And after spending 2 or 3 years, many Israelis take months off afterwards to backpack, party, do drugs, and find themselves. India is one of the most popular destinations. So popular that Israelis have their own backpacking route, the Hummus Trail.
Places such as Dharamkot, Old Manali, Vashisht, and Kasol have nearly half of their population of Israeli nationality.
Street signs in Hebrew, cafes serving fresh falafel and shakshuka.
One town called Kasol has been nicknamed Little Israel. Institutions like Chabad and others have also set up shop on the trail.
He's one of a number of rabbis sent from Israel, the United States, and Canada to help young Israeli tourists traveling in this land of gods and goddesses to stay in touch with their Jewish roots.
An Israeli who runs a Jewish cultural center in one of the villages said, quote, "There's something in India that allows for wild freedom, like the Wild West, a sense that they can do whatever they want, be that smoking weed, driving without a license, or making noise. This is what they seek here. And many of them do exactly that, moving through communities across the region as though the usual rules don't apply."
और कई ऐसे कैफेज हाईलाइट हुए हैं जो ओपनली इंडियंस को एंट्री डिनाई करते हैं.
Locals say their livelihoods are under threat from Israelis working on tourist visas and running businesses without permits.
Some Israeli tourists are said to leave rented motorcycles on the roadside when gas runs out. Of all foreign visitors, only Israelis have managed to build a religious center where they hold parties and celebrations.
This town is completely overrun with Israelis. I'm talking 3-to-1 ratio.
Alongside reports of several businesses illegally run by Israeli citizens.
Smoking weed in hospitals, barring ties from certain businesses, hotels, and public spaces. Wait, they've been barring Thai citizens from places in Thailand? How does that work?
Just crazy work. These niggas just pull up, set up a business, okay, with no permits, run a business, and then tell the locals that they can't come. Smoking weed in the hospital, rent the motorcycle, and they run out of gas, just leave it there, man. Just some assholes, man. And the American military is known for that too. There's some hell of a reports with the American military, man. The Edomites in the American military, they're just assholes, man. But this is what these small hats do all over the world, man. They come over and the rules don't apply to them. They set up a synagogue, which is madness. Okay, their number Satan is their Talmud, the number Satanism. And you go into it. Okay, and party and do drugs and raves and sex parties. Okay, just wild, man. But this is how these devils operate throughout the earth, man. They just come set up shop everywhere, man. You see, and there are people, all right. They have this network of money and people in high places, man. Okay, that allow them to just do what the hell they want to do. Okay, just play this a little more.
Obnoxious tourists come with many passports, and towns accommodating foreign visitors exist all over the world. But with Israeli tourists, there's something else at play. The disregard for local law, the entitlement, the disrespect. Where does all this come from? To understand the tourist, you have to understand the culture that produced them. One of the most important words to understand in Israeli society is friar, usually translated as sucker.
You see, in Israel, being a friar doesn't just mean you're easily fooled. It's more about missing the chance to cut corners, dodge rules, or get ahead by any means necessary. In a society where bending the rules is often seen as savvy, being a friar means you're the one who plays it straight, and that's not a compliment. In fact, being called a friar is one of the worst insults out there.
Join the back of the line. No, they're reserved. You threw my shirt on the floor.
There doesn't seem to be shame about exploiting someone else. The shame is in allowing yourself to be exploited. That mentality is so ingrained, it has another name as well: the success method.
So I have a tiny dog named Lily, and I like to go on errands with her. When I went into my local Schuberstadt grocery store, they told me that I had to hold her if I wanted to come in. So the next time I went there, I looked for the person that told me this. When I couldn't find them, I put her on the ground like I wanted. So what was I doing that's just so Israeli? It's called Shitat Matzliach, which translates to success method, meaning doing what I want until someone tells me otherwise.
Okay, you want to see how I'm getting in without just standing all this time?
The assumption is that there's no harm in trying to push a boundary. And if nobody stops you, you've succeeded.
ウマ娘新シナリオ。ウマ娘たちがファンに感謝を伝えられる場所を。私はただ輝いている姿が見たかった。このライブで夢をつなぎたい。グランドラ
And see, that's a spirit that runs the earth. That capitalist, mindset. This is how these devils run the earth, with this spirit. Get away with what they can get away with. And if the people let them do it, they're going to do it. That's why, you people, still protesting about this ain't right, that ain't right. They don't care if it's not right. Okay? They know the money system is rigged. Everything is rigged for these small hats, man. And for these higher up Edomites. Okay, now these little, peasant, Amalekites, these little peasant small hats, they do that in, restaurants and whatever, small business that they do it. But see, these elites, they do this on the large scale. And see, this is a spirit, and that spirit is heavy in America, man. Because that spirit of getting over and getting out, and you're a fool for trying to play it right. That's why, of course, we walk in the spirit. You see what scripture say, will be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Because you can't just be out here gullible in this society. You be through, because this is wolves. We'll see how it starts. I send you in the midst of wolves, man. It's a very predatory society, man, where people prey on each other's kindness, and you prey on someone else being fair and being honest. You prey on that, man. How wicked is that, man? Okay, but that starts from up top. Okay, with these elites, man. Okay, so is the people. All right, so is the ruler, so is the people, and his officers, man. Okay, but this is the culture of the small hats, man. Some entitled, All right, manipulative assholes, man. So let's play this.
Today, more than 700,000 Israeli settlers live in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. We can see this philosophy clearly in Palestine, in the relentless expansion of settlements, and in the continuous testing of what the world will tolerate. Pushing these boundaries requires a violence that doesn't remain confined to Palestine. It travels with the settlers.
Okay. You love Palestine. I love Palestine, of course. You.
That's my money, okay? Build your country. Oh, wow. Okay.
The residents of Shargal Island reported unruly and rude behavior from a group of Israeli tourists.
A pro-Palestinian flag hanging outside a cafe in Siargao. A group of Israeli tourists allegedly destroyed CCTV cameras, threw rocks, and violently assaulted the owners.
There's a hostility and aggression so similar across all these clips, one that seems to exist in another form in the colony as well.
Excuse me, I ordered shakshuka.
Oh, and what is this?
Pizza.
And what did you order?
Shakshuka.
And what is this?
Pizza.
In Israel, we don't say, excuse me, do you know where my coffee is? I've been waiting a while. We say,
there's this image that Israelis seem to have of themselves, that they're direct, they have chutzpah. Aggression being seen as confidence isn't accidental. For centuries in Europe, Jews were stereotyped as weak, pale, and frail. Early Zionists internalized that image, speaking with contempt about this old Jew, and calling instead for a new Jew, one of a muscular Judaism, who was powerful, assertive, and strong enough to colonize Palestine. The contempt for weakness ran so deep that many Holocaust survivors were looked down upon for, quote, going like lambs to the slaughter. Israel was founded on extreme violence, and none of it was that long ago. The settlers of today are likely the children and grandchildren of the criminals behind the Nakba, who have since carried out many more crimes. So long as it is a settler colony, violence will be its culture, living in the DNA of its settlers. So are we surprised that this behavior is exhibited abroad? There's another place in the world where we can more clearly see how they think. A place that isn't exotic and different, but among people they recognize as their peers. And it's here where a different kind of settler lives, one who is polite and by the book, and who reveals how Zionism sees any land, regardless of the race of who it belongs to.
Now, American Indian.
Nestled beneath the Italian Alps is a region called Valsasia. Known as the greenest valley in Italy, it's a landscape of forested mountains and quiet towns. It's also becoming home to a growing community of Israelis.
Minacciano il sindaco, ma il vero bersaglio sono le famiglie israeliane trasferite in Valsesia.
Vanno a scuola con i nostri ragazzi, fanno calcio, fanno sport con i nostri ragazzi.
Un'oasi di pace minata da questo proiettile recapitato direttamente in comune.
They're part of an initiative called Progetto Beta, launched by an Israeli Italian, which has already brought in 80 Israeli families to the region. The arrangement is presented as a win-win. Valsasia was suffering from demographic decline, and these Israelis were looking for a new place to call home. They're middle class, educated, very secular, and believe that Israel was once a democracy that is now crumbling. Not because of the genocide or apartheid settler colonialism, but because this Zionism doesn't fit with their fantasy of what it should be. This group of settlers are what's known as liberal Zionists. And to understand them, we need to understand why they left. It began in early 2023.
Protesters blocked roads and scuffled with police in Tel Aviv on Wednesday morning, incensed by a controversial plan to overhaul the Israeli judicial system.
Born in Israel, I fought for 30 years in this country to save this country. Now I'm fighting against the dictatorship that's going to happen.
A judicial reform had hundreds of thousands of Israelis out in the streets, mostly secular Jews. They're the largest group in Israel and are the backbone of its economy.
Unfortunately.
So is this the prophecy of the true people being in the land? You know, why are there protests if they are the fulfillment of the true people coming back? But let's get some pre-sales real quick. You know, and there's been a lot of civil unrest, especially as of late, like right now, there's a lot of civil unrest that's not being reported because ever since February, okay, the small hats have been in the media blackout. But it's a lot of civil unrest that's happening in real time. Okay, right now with these small hats, man. Now wait a minute. Those are supposed to be the true people returning. All right. Well, when you go into the scriptures and they speak about the true people going back to their land, okay, this is Jeremiah 30:10. It said, "Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, said the Lord Yahweh Bashim al-Shah, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity." Okay, so the Lord said he would do this, man. This didn't happen in 1948. Okay, the Lord didn't come and deliver his people, okay, from all over the world. You see, that didn't happen. It says, "And Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid." Okay, does that seem like rest and quietness? Okay, and this is recently in 23. Okay, why is there uproar against this this Israeli government? Shouldn't Yahweh Shai be in power? The Messiah should be in the earth ruling. Shouldn't all heathens be in subjection? Okay, in righteousness. Shouldn't righteousness flow from Israel? That's another thing. Why isn't righteousness flowing from the state of Israel? Okay, why is it not rest and quiet? Where's King David? Where are the other tribes? Okay, because the word Jewish with the J, they just stand for one tribe, and at best it can stand for the southern kingdom, Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. But what are the rest of the tribes that was promised to return? Okay, but you go here. Why do you have to join the military? Wait a minute. Another cut. The fact that they're joining the military. Well, wait a minute. You go to Isaiah 2:1. It said the word that Isaiah son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Okay, northern and southern kingdom. Okay, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountains of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. Wait a minute. So the mountain, okay, of Israel, the government of Israel, will be the top government in the earth, and nations will flow into it. Well, wait a minute. Why are their own people leaving? If it's saying that nations should flow to Israel, why are the people in the land of Israel leaving from it? Okay, because they will flow to it to learn what? And many people shall go and say, "Come ye, and let us go to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways." Okay, and we will walk in his paths, for out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord Yahweh Bashim al-Shah from Jerusalem. That's not happening, man. Okay, this is not happening. The exact opposite, man. You see, under the influence of Amalek, the world is more satanic and rebellious than ever. Okay, and no one is flowing to the land, okay, of Israel to learn the ways of Yahweh by Shem Al Shai, man. They don't even mention his name. Okay, verse 4 says, and he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. That means nations shouldn't even even have weaponry. There shouldn't be standing militaries in the earth. Okay, if the true people is back in the land, no nation should have a standing military. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, man. And all they learned under Esau was war, because he's the wicked, and he sustains himself through the sword. Okay? So that's a cut to that madness of them people, you know, being the true people, being true Israel, man. Okay? Those imposters over there. You see? Well, let's play some more. And look how this nigga look, man. You know, and this is the daughter of Zion. Nigga, please. Okay? Let's play this.
Many of my friends check the options in other countries. I will not raise my kids in a country which is not democratic.
Fearing the collapse of what they believe is Israeli democracy, many began leaving to settle elsewhere. That's when Project Beta began. This article starts with a quote written by one of the settlers. As the number of hours of light in their country's democracy keeps diminishing, more and more Israelis are arriving in the mountainous valley in their search for a new start. Underlying all this is a layer of pain, the pain of good Israelis, who believed that after 2,000 years they could rest on their laurels, but were now taking up the wanderer's staff once again. Notice how he says, good Israelis. The founder of Project Beta uses similar language, saying he wanted to help, quote, good Israelis escape what Israel was becoming. Inherent in all this is a kind of entitlement. If it's not working out here, I have the right to go and try this project elsewhere. Zionism claims it is a movement of return, and yet all these people who acknowledge how essential they are to the makeup of the colony feel comfortable abandoning the project to try it elsewhere. The settler mentality is not bound to Palestine. That was just a convenient narrative. You can hear it in how they talk about the town they've moved to in Italy. There's something virginal about this place, in the sense of innocent but also open. It wants to be fertilized. Notice that the valley isn't described as an existing home with its own history, which goes back for centuries. And you can hear it in how they talk about Palestine, the land they claim is their homeland. With all due respect for the talk about the beautiful land of Israel, Israel is perhaps beautiful compared to Syria or Saudi Arabia, but Europe and the Alps are a different world. This is not surprising when every settler quoted in the article is a settler from somewhere else.
Sono israeliani, ma molti sono francesi, portoghesi, tedeschi.
To be a settler is to have no relationship with the land. It's just a place to settle. And to feel entitled to it over its indigenous inhabitants takes a certain entitlement. For one of the settlers in Italy, a life coach specializing in consciousness studies, the push to leave the colony came in October 2023. She needs quiet to work. And when she realized that she'd have to give courses from her safe room, she decided to leave. The biggest threat to Israel is religion, and it's a threat that cannot be resolved. And when it comes into confrontation with a conflict over land, that's a place I can no longer live in. There's so much to unpack there, but the biggest takeaway is how far removed she is from reality, and from how she is a settler and not a victim. Where does this victimization come from?
Tens of thousands of Israeli high school students fly to Poland each year to learn firsthand about the Holocaust.
זה בעיקרון מה שאני רוצה להרגיש במסע, את התחושת של לא לסלוח ולא לשכוח.
Israeli children are immersed from an early age in stories of exile, persecution, and catastrophe. Holocaust education begins in nursery school and continues all the way until graduation.
Highly indoctrinated to be the victim and really think that they're the chosen people, man. You see? and it's the same method, with the indoctrination. Okay? Because you look at the American indoctrination is based on Edomite supremacy. The school curriculum, is based on Edomite supremacy. And for you to learn just enough skills, all right, to be a slave, a corporate slave. Okay, a laborer. They don't teach you any self-sufficiency. Okay, they don't teach you any economics. Okay, they teach you just enough skills to be a corporate slave from kindergarten to 12th grade. Okay, so it's an indoctrination. They're just indoctrinated with a different curriculum, but it's an indoctrination, man. You see?
The undertone that there is the constant possibility that history could repeat itself.
מלבד זה יוצא איתכם גם מאבטחים, יוצאים איתכם מאבטחים. המאבטחים לא יאפשרו לכם ליצור שום קשר עם האוכלוסייה המקומית. תפגשו שם אנשים שלא אוהבים אותנו.
זה כאילו האיכות שלנו, שאתה יודע שאף אחד לא סובל אותך, אבל אתה גאה בזה.
לא יודעת, על כל מיני דברים כאלה. ובעצם כשהילד יודע שיש לו שונאים, זה גורם לך איזה סוג של כעס לצד השני, לכאב, כעס, אפילו שנאה.
Fresh from learning all of that, by 18, nearly every Jewish Israeli enters the occupation forces. It's this perpetual victimhood that makes soldiers who have committed war crimes still believe in the Zionist project.
Many of the soldiers this therapist sees say they don't regret their actions.
Most understand very well why they went to war, but for a few, it's an issue.
The settlers in Valsacia seem to have problems with how Israel is running. But they still believe, or once strongly did, in the Zionist project. We brought up our children on Zionist ideals because all in all, we believed in the state. We all volunteered for a year of community service and served in the IDF, the miracle that is known as the establishment of the State of Israel and its values of solidarity. All that is vanishing. Most settlers in the article seem to think this way. The problem is Netanyahu's government, religious extremism, the occupation, not the concept of a settler colonial ethno-state. These people haven't rejected Zionism. They just think it's gone off course. And when the sun sets on one settler fantasy, it rises on another. Italy, or Greece, Portugal, Cyprus, the US, depending on which group you're in. There's New Israeli Village with the goal of establishing a city of leading Israelis in another country. Another group called New Israel, Israeli State, Democratic Liberal is looking to make a massive land purchase and is considering Cyprus. Other groups include Israel 2.0, Noah's Ark 2.0, and Plan B.
The anti-Israeli graffiti is found on almost every wall in Athens.
In Greece, there's been an Israeli real estate invasion.
You have actual kibbutzes that are being formed outside of Thessaloniki. You have eco-retreats for IOF soldiers to find rehabilitation for their trauma after genociding.
In Cyprus, Israelis are buying up a lot of property.
ウマ娘新シナリオグランドライブが復活ライブミッション開始しますウマ娘の
Βλέπουμε να εξελίσσονται φαινόμενα δημιουργίας κλειστών περιοχών, γκέτο, από υπηκόους του Ισραήλ, με δημιουργία σιωνιστικών σχολείων και συναγωγών.
And this goes all the way to the top. The governments of Greece and Cyprus are acting as Israel's genocidal wingmen. They've become closer than ever in defense, diplomacy, and energy.
They even signed a deal, which actually is quite a colonial one. It gives the right to the Israeli Defense Forces and Air Force to use Greek airspace and Greek territory for practicing war games without even the consent of the Greek government. That's becoming a satellite of another country.
Training for war in foreign and unknown territory, with most training actually being carried out in Cyprus.
Across the world, governments are opening their doors to more Zionist presence. The great irony in all this is that while Israelis travel to detox or find themselves or settle elsewhere because life has become too hard, the Palestinians they dispossess to fulfill this fantasy that they're fleeing from can barely move, not even within Palestine, let alone across the world. There is an entitlement and a violence and a delusion baked into Zionism that doesn't contain itself within the colony's borders. It is a settler ideology, and settlers don't stop being settlers when they cross a border.
Yeah, man, and these small hats, in their mind, the earth is entitled to them. The land, they don't care who own it. Okay, when they come, everyone has to bow down to their agenda. They're indoctrinated to be these victims and have this hatred for, the world, and they're the victims, and everyone's out to get them. Okay, and this is the mentality of these small hats, man. And this is why it's beautiful, the judgment that the Lord got coming. Okay, these people need slavery. Okay, beginning with Amalek, hey, you people, you Edomites need slavery, man, more than anybody. Okay, and that's part of your judgment that the Lord got coming. So let's go here, because when you go to Lamech, when you look at Lamech, man, Lamech really, just speaking as a man, I wouldn't be surprised if Lamech, was Amalek coming back, man. I mean, if Amalek was Lamech coming back, because you look at the spirit that was on Lamech, man, that's the spirit of these small hats, man. Okay, and I'm just speaking as a man, it's not doctrine, but just speaking as a man, how the spirit of Lamech was in. I had looked something up. Now, when you go to Genesis 4 and 23, I'm reading NLT. All right, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 4 and verse 23. It says, one day Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, and this is the son of Cain. All right, so hear my voice, listen to me, you wives of Lamech. I have killed a man who attacked me and a young man who wounded me. If someone kills Cain, if someone who kills Cain is punished 7 times, then one who kills me will be punished 77 times, man. Okay, and they're just a spirit of a damn asshole, man. And you go into, I asked Google, I asked Google, just go into it a little further. All right, I asked Google, I said, will Lamech be considered an entitled asshole? And it says, yes, Lamech from the line of Cain in Genesis 4 fits the description well. Instead of just an entitled asshole, biblical text portrays him as a proud murderer who escalated human violence and arrogance to a whole new level. Okay, key actions of Lamech, bragging about murder. He confessed to his 2 wives that he killed a young man, all right, that he killed a young man who just for hurting or striking him. You see? And you look at these small hats, man, and you look at the IDF, man, how they just been, going crazy about these Palestinians. What the hell with these Palestinians? Okay, we're just going into the spirit of Amalek, man. Okay, and for the longest, if they've been going, to war with civilians and terrorizing civilians, they brag about it. And they feel entitled and they feel justified in doing it. Okay? That's why they don't mind destroying civilians and blowing up hospitals and, especially if one of theirs get injured, man, they feel justified. Okay, by destroying the whole community behind that, man. You see, they don't mind blowing up weddings and marketplaces, and you see, and that's the spirit of a coward, man. You see, but Lamech got this same spirit that Amalek got today, man. It says no remorse. He shows zero guilt or regret for taking human life. He twisted. It says playing the Most High. Oh man, playing the Most High. He twisted the Most High's protective mercy toward Cain. He arrogantly declared that if Cain's killer faced a sevenfold vengeance, anyone who crossed him would face a 77-fold payback. Okay, so he's taking up another notch. Okay, because Cain was given a mark of an exemption. Okay, that he wouldn't be avenged of the blood of Abel. But Lamech like, well, nah, if Cain is exempt sevenfold, well, look, I got 77-fold. And that's the spirit of Esau, man. That's why he feels entitled to do what he wants. He justified in anything that he's doing under the banner that he's in some type of self-defense. Sometimes making him way when he can play the victim, he's justified in whatever he does to protect himself, man. He creates this victim narrative so he can be justified in however he want to do, man. You see? And it says why the label fits. It says entitlements. He assumed he had special, untouchable right to enact disproportionate extreme revenge, man. He assumed he had a special, untouchable right to enact disproportionate extreme revenge. Okay? He took the baseline of human conflict, okay, and multiplied it, showing how bad society had become before the flood, man. And it was the sins of Cain, okay, that made the earth extremely violent before the flood. You see, and that's how we know it's that same lineage that came back through Esau, man. Okay, and Amalek is at the forefront of it, man. Okay, but there's a judgment. You see, that's one thing about it. There's a judgment to come, and you see, Amalek don't have that energy towards Iran. Okay, the IDF ain't planning to invade Iran. Okay, they haven't even been involved in this latest round of fighting. So they're cowards, man. They do this to people that they know they can get away with it with. You see, but the Lord got judgment brewing up, man. And you small hats, you finna get smoked out that land. And you Edomites throughout the earth that survive, you Amalekites, and you Edomites throughout the earth that survive. Okay, this war, you go into captivity, man, a harsh captivity, man. You get, you look at Amalek, man. This nigga is the worst of the worst, man. All right, so let's go here. Let's get this in what's it there, Isaiah. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 10, in verse 33. And it says, behold, the Lord Yahweh Bashim al Shah of hosts shall lock the bow with terror. Okay, and the high ones of stature shall be hewn down, and the haughty shall be humbled. Okay, there's a great humbling coming to you Edomites, man, beginning with Amalek, man. Okay? And right now, you've been on a high horse because you got this network because, amongst Amalek, you have, this network of wealth and connections and privilege. Okay? Even amongst these other Edomites, man. Okay? But all their pride is going to be brought low. This high stature shall be hewn down, and you're going to be brought low, man, and you're going to be slaves, man. Okay? Hardcore bondage, man, for 1,000 years, man. And now these judgments make more and more sense as we see, these things play out. Okay. So I leave it there. That was the point. So Lord will you brothers, all right, and you few sisters have been edified. Till next time I say Shalom. Yashala, Abba, soon, Shalom.